So, at the beginning of the lesson, I want to show you an important software called ChemDraw. But in particular, there is the ChemOffice is the platform. You can download freely this software directly from the site of Unibo. And I will use this software to show you the different reactions. Here I can show you really an example. Okay. I want to show, no, okay, we see, new, okay. For example, you can take a benzene ring, and then you can take a methyl. For example, we can build a chemical structure, very simple. And then perhaps we can make a double bond. We can put an oxygen here. And then if you want, we can insert a substituents, an aromatic ring, and H2. Okay. So when you have your chemical structure, you can see the, okay, you can rotate the formula where you want, you can change and so on, vertical, okay, you rotate, degree and so on, okay. It's important to convert a structure to name, and you have the English name of the molecule. And also, you can use this software to go on the web and to find some chemical features, solubility, lipophilicity, and so on of this molecule. So if you want, you can manage this type of software at home, and so you can use. It's very nice. There is the ChemDraw part to draw the chemical structures. There are also the biological part, so you can take a picture of a protein and then you can see the protein directly from the crystallized model. And so I think it's useful for you. So this is the first, so ChemDraw. And the second one is on the web. The second one is Google Scholar. I don't know if you know this website. The website is very important. For example, you can go, you see, okay, scholar.google.com, and then you can put my name, for example, Pugnati Vincenzo. And then you see all my papers. And if you want, you can see. This is an important paper published some years ago. But not only for scientific papers, but also if you want medicinal chemistry books, sorry. And you can find several books. Principle of Medicinal Chemistry, Volume 1. So you can see this type of book. This site is free. And so if you want to find additional information about a topic, about what you want, you can check on this website. So, ChemDraw and Google Scholar. These are two useful tools for you for medicinal chemistry course. Okay.
Sorry, Prof. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you mind showing the first one another time?
Just a moment, please. Yes. Yes, Mona.
Can you show the first tool another time?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Mona is this one. You see? Do you see it?
Yes, I see. Thank you.
Okay. ChemDraw Professional. You see? You can download the software directly from our university.
Okay.
And you can use directly. I don't know if it works for Mac. I don't know. Perhaps I think so. Perhaps you can choose. Yes. There are two different choices at least. And then you can use it directly if you want to draw some chemical structures and so on. Okay. Can we start with the lesson? Are you ready? Okay. Ciao Jeanette. Ho visto adesso. Ok. So. Okay. We start from this point. Different routes of administration. The first one is enteral, gastrointestinal system, sublingual under the tongue, nasal, rectal, tablets, parenteral, injection, by injection, mainly by injection, miscellaneous, aerosol, you see, topical, transdermal, implants. There are specific implants, for example, to deliver insulin, an important hormone. And so there are several technologies in this field. But the concept is that the route of administration is critical for several pharmacokinetic, toxicological, and pharmacodynamic parameters. Once again, you have a scheme, peros, by mouth, variable absorption, depending on many factors. Effects appear after 55, 60, 1 hour. It's too long sometimes. However, it's the cheapest and safest way, but the patient must be awake and cooperative. Incomplete absorption may not allow to reach the minimum effective concentration. This is another important problem. And the second is the first pass effect. All drugs, all substances absorbed by gastrointestinal tract are modified by liver because all compounds arrive to the liver, vena porta, vein, an important vein. And in the liver there are a lot of enzymes able to change the chemical structure of your compound, of your drug, in order to maximize the elimination of these exogenous compounds, such a drug, but also dyes. When you eat, for example, meat and so on, there is a dye inside, a red dye, color, synthetic color, and this molecule should be eliminated by our body, and this happens by changing the chemical structure of these compounds in order to increase the hydrophilicity, the water solubility of this compound. We'll see later how our liver is able to change the chemical structure of these compounds by introducing, for example, OH alcoholic groups. Rectal, also in this case, a variable and incomplete absorption, a shorter latency of action, but you see again partial first pass effect. Also in this case, your drugs can be led to the liver. Sublingual, under the tongue. This is a very strange but very fast way of absorption. In fact, you see fast absorption because there is a wide capillary net under the tongue, and so your drug can be absorbed very easily. Hello, good morning. In fact, you can see the effect appears after a few minutes. Use it in emergency, of course, in the case of infarct, for example. If you want to use a very fast vasodilatator, if there are problems with heart circulation, infarct, and so on, and we want to increase the quantity of oxygen for our heart. In this case, you see, we avoid first pass effect. And so a massive concentration of your drug can reach the target. For example, if you have an headache, you can see a tablet under the tongue for ibuprofen, anti-inflammatory, and anti-pain, killer pain, and then you have an effect after 5 minutes, very fast effect. In this case, it is necessary a correct intake of the medicine, increase the risk of side effects. Yes, because we have a peak on the blood, and perhaps due to the high concentration of the drug in the blood flow, and in this case we can have the main effect, but in addition also side effects, interaction with other targets. Intravenous, 100% of absorption, 100% of bioavailability, immediate effects, use it in emergency, okay. Large volumes can be injected. Diluted irritants can be administered, okay. Increase the risk of side effects. Infusion should be slow. Intramuscular, subcutaneous, more or less. All of these ways have the same problem, but also we have a very fast effect by this way. You can see now an example. This is pentobarbital. Pentobarbital is a very old molecule. It belongs to the family of barbiturates. Barbiturates were used in the past to have sleep, to take sleep in the night. The problem of this class of drugs is related to their toxicity. They are very toxic. 3 tablets are enough to sleep forever. Do you understand? Yeah. Marilyn Monroe, the past, decided to sleep forever by taking 3 tablets of barbiturates. So the active dose is very close to the death dose. And so you have to pay a lot of attention. Another problem related to this class is tolerance and the physical dependence. This means that tolerance, you have to increase the dose weeks by weeks if you want to have the same effect, because this class of compound increase the enzymes activity. But you take higher and higher dose of this drug, and then you can arrive at the block of the respiratory centers in the brain, and so you can sleep forever. Yes, this is the problem. Nevertheless, these compounds were used a lot in the past, and now only in epilepsy. We can see from the picture that if you use this compound by os, by mouth, orally, you need a dose of about 300 milligrams per kilogram. To have the same effect.
How much, Professor?
Please?
How much?
Your weight is about 60.
No, how much you have to take the dose?
Okay. 3, you see here on the y axis, 300 milligrams per kilogram. If you take this compound by injection, you can have the same effect with the half or less of the half of the dose. You see intravenous only 100 milligrams per kilogram. This pattern, this picture, describes very well the different bioavailability of a drug if this drug is taken by orally or by injection, different type of injection ways. But why we need 300 milligrams per kilogram orally? Because some of these quantity can be metabolized by our enzyme systems located in the liver. And so we can lose part of this drug by enzymatic metabolization, enzymatic metabolism. This is the reason that we need this so high quantity of compound orally. There is the first pass into the liver. In all these ways, it is very important the solubilization of your drug in water. If you take the drug orally, the tablet must be solved in water media. Also, if you want to introduce your compound by injection, you have to solve your compound in a physiological media, pH 7.2, and then you can inject this solution. And the water solution depends on the form of the crystals, of the crystal forms of the drug. Because the active ingredient, the drug, can be present in different crystalline forms. Can be amorphous, can be a crystal, and amorphous solid can be present in different metastable polymorph forms, polymorphism. There is a famous drug called Viagra. It's very famous. And this drug is present on the market with a different market name, because every company has a different amorphous solid form with different solubility, and they patent this different form of the drug. Normally, the amorphous solid form is more soluble in water than the crystalline form. Because if you want to solve, for example, sodium chloride, we have to destroy the order of the crystal structure. And it is necessary to spend energy in this case. With an amorphous solid, the solubility can be performed very fast and faster than the crystal form. So you see here the definition of polymorphism. Polymorphism is the ability of the same drug molecule to crystallize into more than one different crystal structure. However, once they are in the solution phase, we have the solution unsolved. No more polymorphism. The different arrangements of atoms within the crystal unit cell can have a profound, a deep effect on physical and chemical properties. This is the point. The final drug product. During the production of the specific drug, it is very important the quality control. Quality control of the final product, yes, but also quality control of the starting product. If you can order, for example, an antibiotic to an Indian company because you want to prepare a specific tablets of an antibiotic, it is necessary to check very carefully the crystal form, because sometimes the crystal are not the same, and so you have a problem with the solubilization of this compound in stomach, and if you cannot have the final effect. Here you can see some different pictures of polymorphism, polymorph forms. You see by electronic microscope. Okay. You see the different shape, same drug. The rate of dissolution affects absorption. So if we have different polymorphism with a different rate of dissolution, we can have problems to reach the minimal effective concentration in the blood. Here in the picture you have three examples of the same drug with a different crystal structure. You can see the behavior of the first compound, compound A, the same dosage. Compound A has a fast solution and a high solubility in water, and you can reach a very high peak of blood concentration, and you can overcome the minimal effective concentration, yes, but the peak is too high, and perhaps you can have severe side effects. Compound B is the best of the three. You see, is able to overcome the minimal effective concentration. The peak is not so high, and so perhaps you have only the therapeutic effect with the few side effects. Compound C has a low solubility. It requires a lot of time to go in the water, and you see it is not able to reach the minimal effective concentration. So perhaps you can have no effect, perhaps side effects, but no the therapeutic effect. Absorption. So we have seen something about the solubility. It's important, but to reach the blood flow, our drug must cross several barriers, several membranes. In particular, you see several cell layers, skin, epithelium, gastrointestinal epithelium, alveolar, endothelial. You see the cell membrane follows the fluid mosaic model, 7 to 9 millimeter thick, micrometer, sorry. And you know, it consists of a phospholipid B layer, you see here in the picture. This is the model of a membrane, you know, you have seen a lot of examples in physiology, and so your drug can cross the membrane through the double phospholipidic layer, B layer, or by taking some shortcuts. For example, channels, we'll see, it's possible. Aquaporins, yes. Because in the membrane we can find a lot of, membrane receptors, pumps, enzymes, ionic channels, and so on. The nature of the membrane is fat. because there are inside cholesterol. You see the chemical structure. Cholesterol is characterized by aliphatic structure. And you see here the general structure of phospholipids. There is a polar head, a quaternary nitrogen atom, which represents the polar head you see in the external part of the membrane or in the internal part in contact with the water media. And the fatty acids normally are linked with the ester bond in the second position of glycerol. This very simple molecule, CH2OH, these three alcohols, is glycerol. Very simple molecule. And in second position, in position 2, normally there is the fatty acid bound with the ester bond. This is a very nice picture. You see protein channel, double phospholipidic layer, and so on. Cytoplasm and extracellular fluid. Okay. A picture about the phospholipid structure, polar head, hydrophobic tails. Once again. Okay, a lot of description. And here you can see some molecules able to cross or not to cross the cell membranes. Gas can freely cross the membranes. CO2, nitrogen, oxygen. Ethanol, without any problems. Water, urea, glucose, no. But we need glucose. But there is specific transport system to introduce glucose, because glucose is water soluble, you know, it's a sugar, and there is a special transport system to introduce glucose inside the cells. Ions, also there are specific channels, and polar charged molecules are not able, amino acids are not able to cross the membrane, but they request a specific transport system. We can use this transport system also to introduce drugs inside the cells, like Trojan horse. It's an approach. If you want to introduce drugs inside the cells, we can use this type of transport system. For example, the system related to the transport of amino acids. Here you can see the different ways how a molecule can reach the inner part of the cells. On your right, you can see different transport system. Okay. Important, yes. A lot, yes. But the main system is called passive diffusion. If we have an high concentration of drug outside the cell, this molecule can easily cross the membrane because in the cytoplasm the concentration is lower. Passive diffusion. No energy, no transport system, nothing. Aqueous diffusion. Through the aquaporins, there are specific channels reserved to the passage of water molecules. And in this case, only water-soluble molecules can use this type of mechanism. Facilitated diffusion, once again, is based on the different concentration of your drug, high concentration in outside the cell, low concentration inside the cell, but in this case there is a transport system, and so we need energy. Carrier dependent. And finally, there is the active transport. In this case, it's possible to reach a higher concentration of your drug inside the cell because there is a carrier, a transport system able to take you the molecule of your drug from outside and to transport them to inside the cell. Is a saturable process, a limited number of replays on the carrier system. It requires energy, can also go against the concentration gradient, is very selective. We can say that a drug can cross the membrane by more than one mechanism, okay? We have seen that it's important to know the physical properties of your drug because the water solubility is an important property that can limit the distribution of a drug inside the cells. And also it is important to know if the form of your drug outside the cell, if the drug is charged or not charged. Because we'll see that a lot of drugs have ionizable groups, acidic groups, basic groups, and I remember you that the drug can pass through different pH values. In the stomach, we have pH about 1.5. In the intestine, the pH ranging from 2.53 to 6 pH unit. And inside the blood flow, the pH is about 7.23. And so if you have a acidic group or basic group, you can have the different form, charged and uncharged. The uncharged form is able to cross very easily the membrane, the charged form not, but we'll see later this important point. Once again, you see on your right the ability of some antibiotic to cross the cell wall and the membranes of gram-negative. You know that the gram-negative bacteria have a very complex system of membrane and cell wall, and it's very difficult to reach the inner part of these cells. But fortunately, we can use a shortcut, specific shortcut, represented by the aquaporin. Aquaporins are special channels that allow the passage of water molecules. You see, aquaporin are present only in the normal cells. And also, I remember you again, the active transport system. an important point is related to the active transport system. Yes, we can use this transport system if we want to introduce a drug, for example, inside the cell. Okay. But the cell can use this type of transport system to take your drug from the inner part of the cell and to eliminate outside, to transport it outside again. So in this case, your drug is not effective because, okay, we can reach the inner part of the cells, but then again, your drug is taken from the transport system and transport outside. This fact is related to the antibiotics resistance effect, to the resistant cancer cells. They elaborate a specific transport system able to take your drug from inside to outside. We see, now this is, I changed the position of this slide, but just to show you the interactions of grapefruit with drugs. You drink a lot of orange juice, a lot of, natural compounds, very important, antioxidant, vitamin C, and so on. Okay. The natural compounds present inside these fruits can use the same transport system that normally are used by the drugs to enter into the cell. So there is a competition between your drug and natural compounds. And sometimes several drugs must be taken alone without grapefruit, soy, and so on, in order to have an optimal absorption. We can say grapefruit, but also we can say foods in general. I take a tablet of thyroid hormone every morning, and I have to take this tablet with an empty stomach 1 hour before breakfast, so because I have no more thyroid. I lost with a cancer, and so. Okay, now I have a movie. Cell transport.
Cell transport is the process of how things move in or out of the cell through the cell membrane. There are two broad categories of cell transport. The first category is passive transport. For a cell, passive transport means it's an automatic process that doesn't require any input of energy. For example, diffusion is a passive process in which particles move either into or out of the cell from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. The cell doesn't use any energy when this happens. The second category of cell transport is active transport. This is when particles move from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. When particles move against the concentration gradient, energy is required, often to allow protein pumps to assist in particle movement. Why would the cell need to move particles from a low to high concentration and expend energy to do it? An important example is seen in your heart muscle cells. In order for your heart to beat, there are certain molecules that have to move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration for those cardiac muscle cells to work.
Yeah.
So the main things to remember are: passive transport happens automatically with no energy required, while active transport needs energy for it to occur.
Action potential, you know. This is an example, of course. So passive diffusion depends. Concentration gradient of your drug, partition coefficient. We'll see the meaning of this characteristics of the molecule. Degree of ionization, pH of absorption site, and molecular weight of the substance. In this formula, you see the Fick law. The speed of absorption depends from a constant, K2, the area, you know the intestine area is about 150 meters square. It's like an apartment, you know, a big apartment. And so we have a strong absorption. The gradient value, the difference in concentration outside from inside, and also D. D is the thickness of the membrane to be crossed. Because skin, you know, the thickness is very high. It's a very high value. We have to defend our body from outside, inside, and so on. The thickness of the alveolar in the lung is very small. So, K2 is a constant. It depends from the diffusion coefficient, the ability of the drug to diffuse according to its chemical physical properties, okay? But there is also P. P is a partition coefficient, oil, water. P is a value that describes the ability of your molecule to be solved in water or in oil. You know, oil and water are not soluble, you cannot make a mixture of the two because you obtain a upper layer of the oil layer, and then under you have the layer of the water. You can try to mix again, but after some minutes, you have again the two different layers. So we can put our drug in this system here. Just a moment. No, perhaps it's, where is? Oh. I want to describe the system in advance. Just a moment. Where is? No more. Oh. Perhaps it's in the next chapter. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So if you want to measure the partition coefficient, we have to put our drug and to put our drug inside.
Sorry, Prof.
Yes.
Stop
Okay.
sharing.
Yeah. Okay, just a moment. Okay. You see again. You can put your molecule inside these two layers, then you can mix, and then you measure the quantity of your drug in the oil layer and in the water layer. In this way, you have an idea about the ability of your compound to be solved in oil, if it prefers to be solved in oil or in water. Hydrophilicity, water soluble, lipophilicity, oil soluble. This system looks like the cell membrane. The water layer is similar to the water media outside the cell, and the oil layer is similar to a membrane. And so we can have an idea about the ability of your drug to cross the cell membrane. Here you have a table with different molecules: water, urea, glucose, inulin, albumin. Molecular weight, okay, and also this important parameter, D, 3.2, the ability of your compound to cross or not cross albumin. In this case, albumin is very big. It's difficult for albumin to cross the cell membrane. As I told you before, the absorption can be modulated by foods, yes, because they can use the same transport system of your drug, yes. But also, we can increase the absorption of drug, for example, on the skin, when we apply a cream, by using, for example, ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is a natural compound, is an acid, is able to clean the surface of the skin, and so we can increase the absorption of specific drug. In this case is haloperidol, is an antipsychotic, because we have cleaned the surface of the skin. But also, in addition, ascorbic acid can change the pH of the absorption point, and so we can increase the concentration of the anionized form of your drug. So you can understand, we can modulate the absorption of different drugs by using other compounds, not toxic, in this case, ascorbic acid. You have another example, ibuprofen plus caffeine in the treatment of tension type headache. If you have a strong headache, normally you can take a tablet of ibuprofen, Moment is in Italy, plus a caffeine, so you have a synergistic effect of the two compounds, strong effect. Okay. There are several drugs characterized by ionizable groups, acidic groups, basic groups, alkaloids. And so these drugs can be present in different forms in the physiological media. It depends from the pH. In the stomach, the pH is 1.5, and so we'll see the acidic function will be anionized. On the contrary, the basic atoms, the nitrogen atom, will be protonated, and so will be charged, and so will be ionized. There are a special class of compounds charged at every pH value. In this point, for example, the quaternary salts. These compounds remain outside the membrane, and for example, we can limit the effect of these drugs only on the periphery, not in the brain. We'll see this strategy. We can introduce a permanent charge on the chemical structure of a drug in order to limit its distribution inside the body, can limit its distribution only on the periphery, the muscle, not inside the CNS. Here you can see an example. This is hexametonium. Hexametonium is able to block the muscle movement. We use this compound during when we want to cut our skin. And in this case, this molecule must not reach the CNS because it can have severe effect. To limit its activity only on periphery, you can see there are two nitrogen atoms with a positive permanent charge, quaternary nitrogen. In this case, you see this compound is not able to cross a membrane. You have another example, meprobamate. Meprobamate is an old drug used to take sleep, anxiolytic drug. In this case, you see no charge. It's a neutral molecule. Lipophilic, yes. And this compound is able to cross freely, almost freely, the membranes by different gradient concentration, okay, by passive diffusion, okay. In the middle, there is the most complex example, a barbiturate, old molecule. We have already described their activities, yes. But if you see, this molecule can be present in two different forms outside the cell at pH 7.2, more or less. An ionized form, no charge. An ionized form. You see there is an acidic proton here, like an acid, organic acid. And this proton is acidic, and so we can have the charged form. The charged form is not able to cross the membrane. The anionized form is able to cross. So we need to know the exact concentration of the two forms at pH 7.2. If you want to know if this drug is able to cross the membrane, to be absorbed or not. Here you have an example of a natural alkaloid, scopolamine, a troppa bella donna, scopolamine, yes. There is a very famous drug called the Buscopan in Italy, scopolamine nitrogen butyl bromide. if you see the scopolamine free base is protonated with a methyl atom, methyl group, and so we have the quaternary form of the scopolamine. We use only the quaternary form and not the free base, because we want to limit the distribution of scopolamine only on the periphery, not in the CNS. Buscopan is very famous as a muscle relaxant in the case of liver colic, intestine colic. If scopolamine is able to reach the CNS, we can have a strong amnesia because it can act on the neurons, and so we have a strong amnesia. Scopolamine free base is used in chemical war, chemical weapons, for example. And so if you want to need its activity only on periphery, we can introduce a methyl group and we have a quaternary permanent charge. It is important to know the concentration of the two forms, anionized and unionized. How we can know these two concentrations? I remember you an important equation called Anderson-Hasselbalch equation. You have seen probably this equation during the course of general chemistry. If you want to know the concentration of the two forms, we have to know the pKa of your drug and the pH of the application of your drug, where your drug is, in what kind of medium, in the stomach, in intestine, on the skin, on the lung, where. Here you have, once again, an example with barbituric acid. You can see the anionized form on your left, the keto form, and then the ionized form on your right. You see the minus charge here. Here you have a table with a different pH and a different concentration fraction of ionized and non-ionized form. At pH 2, you have the total 100% of non-ionized form in stomach. So you have a complete absorption of your compound in the stomach because it's not charged. It's not in a charged form. At pH 6, you have more or less the same situation, 96%. At 8 pH unit, you have the completely different situation. 80% is ionized, 20% non-ionized. In this case, the absorption is very difficult. Only the unionized form is able to cross the membrane. In this case, barbiturate has a pKa of 7.4, you see. Once again, we can know the fraction of the two forms starting from the pH and from the pKa of your drug. Once again, remember you the pH of the different district of our body: stomach 1 to 5, duodenum 5 to 8, jejunum 7 to 8, colon, vagina, conjunctiva 7 to 8, skin. So we can start from this data and we can calculate the fraction of drug absorbed starting from the pH value and from the pKa of the drug. Okay, if the pH is 7 and the pKa is 7, your ratio is 1. Okay. Same concentration in the two forms. pH 6, pKa 7, you have another situation. Okay, these are example, pH 8, you have the contrary. Okay. Here you can see what happens. You have plasma, gastric juice, pH 1.4, plasma pH 7.4. The situation is completely different, you can see. Okay. So we have described that it's important the unionized form to cross the membrane, yes. The drug can be absorbed, yes. But we need the charged form for the target interaction. So our drug should be present in two forms everywhere. The unionized form is necessary to cross the membranes, yes. But the ionized form, it is important to have the interaction with the target. Because you can imagine, we need a strong bond in the target site. And if your drug is in a charged form, we can have ionic bond. Ionic bond is very strong, you know. We'll see later the different bonds present in the target site. So in this case, you see the activity on epsilon axis and the pH value, the x-axis, you see. In blue, you have an acid. In red, you have a base. You see the behavior of an acid. At low pH, we have an ionized form. At high pH, we have ionized form. Ionized form, high activity. Unionized form, low activity, because no interaction with the target, but we have a very high absorption. And the contrary for the base. The ionized form, the charged form, is more hydrophilic. The unionized form is more lipophilic. In Greek, philos means friend. Hydrophilic means friend of water. Lipophilic means friend of fat. So when we have a drug, we need these two different phases, these two different behaviors, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Perhaps you know the story of this medical doctor. Medical doctor during the day and killer during the night. Our drug should have two different forms. Unionized in the day and ionized in the night. Okay, here you have the story of Mr. Wright. And which are the groups giving hydrophilic characteristics? Ionized form are water soluble, yes. So we can, for example, acidic groups, carboxylic groups, yes. Strong acid groups, yes. Amides, hydrogen bonds, yes. But overall, salts. You know, a salt is a result of an acid mixed with a base. Because in this case, you have a carboxylic acid mixed with a base. These different salts are very soluble in water. When a salt is in the water, you have the charged form, but this charged form is in equilibrium with the uncharged form. So in this case, it depends on the pH or the pKa of your acid. You can have the two different forms. DOH groups are very important to increase the hydrophilicity. Aminic groups, thiol group, all groups able to give hydrogen bonds can increase the hydrophilicity of your molecule. And which are the groups able to confer lipophilic characteristics? Aromatic groups, carbon chains, multiple aromatic rings, naphthalene, anthracene, and so on. Halogens, iodine, bromine. These type of elements are important to increase the lipophilicity compound. Double and triple bonds, alkane, alkene. Esters, but esters with long chain alcohols. No with methyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol. No, we need a long chain alcohol to have a high lipophilic esters. Yeah?
Can you repeat the names of multiple aromatic rings?
Yes. You know the benzene ring is simple, only one. You can put together more than one, and then you have naphthalene, anthracene, 3, and then another complex system, and so you increase the lipophilicity of the molecule. Okay. So now I think we can stop. Then we drink a cup of coffee, and then we start with the second part. Have you any question at home? Oh, yeah, trascrizione.
No, it's all clear. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, 11:30 we start again. Okay. Okay. So, dear students, we start again. Just a moment. Dunque, qui chiudiamo. Questo chiudiamo. No. Allora. Erano due. Ok. Ok.
Sì, alla fine sì, solo che dovrei andare a venire solo per la prossima settimana, poi venire martedì, io martedì devo studiare.
Finestra.
Avevo guardato e fatto una posta. Volevo studiare tutto il giorno, però per fortuna venerdì che abbiamo anche il pomeriggio libero, quindi pensavo di studiare per studiare venerdì e venerdì, martedì, e quindi mi sono un po', ho pensato alle schifo, ho fatto un po' di giri, adesso inizio.
So, dear students, can you hear me at home? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So, the concept of solubility is very important in medicinal chemistry. So, I try to explain again this concept for you because perhaps you have already heard something about this concept during the course of general chemistry. So we can have two different situations: unsaturated solution and saturated solution. Unsaturated, the solid continues to dissolve. So saturated, the solid no longer dissolves because you have part of your compound undissolved in the water, for example, in the solvent. So solubility is determined in presence of insoluble fraction in a saturated solution. So if you want to have a saturated solution, I have to continuously add my compound, and then should remain part of your insoluble compound in the solvent. How we can measure the partition coefficient, P? We have already described the importance of this parameter because it can allow to determine if your drug is able or not able to cross the cell membranes. How we can measure this important parameter? We can use a biphasic system. Water with another solvent, for example, chloroform. Yes. Yeah. You. Okay. Oh, we can. Yeah. Oh, mamma mia. Pensavo che fosse così buio. Prova a spegnere tutto. Prova. Try it again. No? Oh. No. Aspetta. Perché sometimes...
No, but now it's okay.
Aspetta. Ferma. Okay. So, okay. We can try to determine this important parameter in a biphasic system. Water and another solvent, for example, chloroform, they are mixable. Normal hexane, an organic solvent, or normal octanol, is an alcohol. You see 8 carbon atom, normal octane, and then an alcohol function. This system, normal octanol and water, is considered to be the one closest to the biological system, because normal octanol can represent the membrane, phospholipidic layer, and the water, the medium around the cell. You see here the system, normal octanol, and then water. You know the density of this alcohol is lower than the density of water, and so you have the 2 layers. On the top you have the octanol, and then you have the water. And so we can put our drug in this system. You have to mix, and then we get again the 2 layers, and we can measure. For example, you put 1 gram of your drug inside the system, and then you can measure how much drug is on the top, then octanol phase, and how much drug is in the water. You get a ratio, and so you can determine the p-value and then the log p-value. You have an idea about the ability of your compound to cross or not the cell membranes. Here you see the system, 2 layers, normal octanol, organic solvent, and buffer, okay, water. Put your drugs inside, you mix, and then you have to wait for the separation of the 2 layers again, and then you can measure the p-value is a ratio between the quantity of your compound in organic phase and the quantity of your compound in a water phase. In this case, you have the value of 9. Log p of 9 is 0.9, and so on. If log p is minor than 0.5, the compound is more soluble in water. If log p is major than 0.5, the compound is insoluble in water. So, how we can search this type of value? There is an important website called drugbank.ca, and then we go there, just a moment. Okay. So we can see this website together. Just a moment. Okay. And then we can share the screen. This one, okay. So here you can aspirin, for example, very common. You can see a summary, the brand names, generic names, background, small molecules, chemical structure, chemical formula, synonyms, indication, okay, associated conditions, yes, therapies, warnings, pharmacodynamics, mechanism of action, absorption, volume of distribution, protein binding, metabolism, route of elimination, half-life, clearance, adverse effect, toxicity. And now, pharmacogenomic effects, drug interactions, food interactions, ingredients, okay, images, okay, brand name, over-the-counter products, you see, mixture products, unapproved, okay, a lot, ATC codes, chemical taxonomy, description, and so on, chemical identifiers, synthesis reference, general reference, external, PDB entry, clinical trials. You see a lot of that. Huh? Prices, patents, experimental properties, melting point, boiling point, water solubility. You see log P. Oh, finally, pKa. So you see log P value, pKa, physiological charts, and so hydrogen acceptor count, hydrogen donor count, polar surface, refractivity, and so on. Okay, number of rings, bioavailability, rule of 5, Weber's rule. So we have discussed some of these important values just last time. So this website is very important because you can find a lot of data about the drug, not only for medicinal chemistry course, but also for pharmacology, for what you want, for your preparation and so on. So it's free, so you can find a lot of data of every type of drug on the market. Okay. So we start again. Just a moment. Okay. Here you can see a picture just to have an idea about the importance of P, partition coefficient, in the drug distribution process. If you have a lipophilic compound, you have a fast transport, a fast distribution of your compound inside the body. This is important. If you want to have a fast effect, a fast distribution of your compound. Here you can see some example of barbiturates, once again, because the barbiturates class is very famous. A lot of investigation were performed on this type of drugs. You see veronal and seconal are all the barbiturates. Thiopental is still in use when we want to get the not the amnesia, but if you want to make a chirurgic operation intervention, so thiopental is very potent and very fast. It's also called the Siero della Verità. What is the name in Italy? Siero della Verità, I don't know. When you use this type of drug, you have no condition from outside, and so you describe only the trough. Okay, trough is the trough drug. And so thiopental is very common now. Okay, you see here this important picture. You can see that with the high partition coefficient, you have a very high absorbed fraction. So with the highest partition coefficient, you have the highest absorption, because your molecule is able to cross fastly and easily the cell membranes. Here we can see what happens when we take a drug orally. In this case, we have an alkaloid, for example, a basic drug. This drug can reach the stomach. The pH is about 2, and so you have a big fraction of your drug present in charged form. And the charged form is not able to cross, you see the arrow, is not able to cross to be absorbed in the stomach. So this basic compound will be absorbed in the intestine, where the pH value is 5. In this case, you see this big arrow, big absorption. Your basic drug is able to reach the blood flow, but I remember once again in the blood flow the pH is 7. So you have another situation. A big fraction of your drug is in uncharged form, and a low fraction is in charged form. So when your basic drug is in the blood, in this case, your drug can be distributed and can reach the target very easily. This is the situation with the basic drug. However, we have to consider the wide surface of the intestine. You know about more than 100 square meter square. Okay. Here in the picture you have the whole situation of what happens in the gastric assumption of a drug, or when a drug is assumed orally. First of all, stomach. You have a tablet with a lot of excipients, and your drug should be released from the matrix of the tablet in order to be free inside the stomach. So you can see the aggregation, the solution of your drug inside the stomach. But the absorption is not so easy, because perhaps can be present foods, other natural products, which can react with your drug. It's possible, a cross reaction of foods with your drug, yes. The pH normally is about 2, but if you have taken some antacids, you have another gastric value, pH value. The volume of the of the stomach is important because you know if the stomach is empty, the peristaltic movements are very not so strong. It is necessary to have a full stomach if you want to increase the muscle movements and to help the mass to go farther to the intestine. There is another important point, complexation with mucus. You know that the pH is 1.5, around 2, and it is difficult for a normal cell to stay healthy at this pH value. And so it is necessary the presence of this mucus. This mucus is able to defend the parietal cell of the stomach from the acidic attack of the hydrochlorhydric acid. We'll see a specific class of drugs like ibuprofen, aspirin, and other, able to block the formation of this mucus. When you take an ibuprofen pill, for example, this compound is able to block the formation of this mucus. This means that hydrochlorhydric acid is able to attack the cells of the stomach to form ulcers and blood problems and so on. So you can see the complex situation inside our stomach. First of all, in the stomach, acids are absorbed because at low pH we have the uncharged form of the acidic drugs. On the contrary, you see what happens with a basic drug. Is protonated, so this type of drug is not absorbed in the stomach, but will be absorbed in the intestine, where the pH is 5 to 7, the range of pH. Bile salts, very important for the solubilization of fat compounds, absorption of bases inside the intestine, complexation with mucus, once again, jejunum, ileum, higher level of pH, portal vein. You see some drugs metabolized by the liver can be introduced again in the intestine through the portal vein. So once again, they can be absorbed again, and then they can go again to the liver, and then they can go once again introduced in the intestine. What about the epithelia? Epithelia of the oral cavity, gastrointestinal, rectal, velar, cutaneous, are more severe barriers than capillary endothelia. Yes, you know. The endothelia of the oral cavity should defend our intestine from the external, exogenous bacteria and so on, exogenous attack. And how a drug can cross the intestine membranes? Which are the problems that can limit the absorption of particular drugs in the intestine? food interaction. Some drugs can react physically, chemically, and physically because can be absorbed inside the intestine. Drugs interaction. If you, for example, sometimes you can take more than one drug, and the second drug can use the same transport system of the first drug, and so you have a competition of the two drugs for the same carrier, for the same transport system, and so you can have a limited absorption of the two drugs. But also there are the pathological conditions. If you have any problem with the intestine, diarrhea and so on, you can understand it's not so easy to have the ideal absorption when the health conditions are not the best. Here you can see a drug which can react with the food. So you see you have another chemical entity which is not able to be absorbed. We have already described that it is important to reach the right level in the blood flow to have the therapeutic effect. In the ideal condition, when you have only one drug, we know exactly what happens inside the blood flow because we know the bioavailability of this drug, we know the p-value, we know everything. The problem starts when we have more than one drug together. Why? Because they can compete for the same protein inside the blood flow. I explained this concept. The last time we have already discussed about the fact that the drug is able to interact with the blood proteins. Yes. Normally 90% of your drug is bound to the protein and the 10% is free, in a free form, and it is able to reach the target, to be absorbed, and so on. Okay. The site on the proteins normally for the binding of the drug normally are the same. And if the two drugs are a very similar chemical structure, it is possible that the two drugs interact with the same site on albumin, for example. In this case, you have a competition between the two drugs for the same site. And if the first drug is bound for 90%, for example, you can have a displacement of the first drug carried out by the second drug. And so instead of 90% of fraction bound to the protein, you can have only 40, 50%. So this means that you have a higher concentration of free drug. The first one. Because you have a displacement of the first drug from the binding site on the protein. This means that you have a peak of the free drug inside the blood, and this means that you can have additional side effects which normally are not present. In this picture, you have an example of the displacement of a drug called tolbutamide by sulfonamides, by a class of antibacterial drug. Tolbutamide is a drug able to decrease the sugar in the blood. Diabetics, people use normally tolbutamide to control the concentration of sugar, of glucose inside the blood. You know that it is important to check, to maintain a normal concentration of the blood, of the sugar in the blood. If the sugar has a highest concentration or a lowest concentration, you can have problem with the CNS, coma, and death. In this case, what happens? You have a tolbutamide alone, you see, column A. In this situation, the concentration of free tolbutamide is 4%. This is the normal situation, the therapeutical window. If we use an antibacterial drugs such as sulfodiazine, you see, is a sulfonamide, a very old class of antibacterial agents. The chemical structures of the two compounds, tolbutamide and sulfonamides, are very similar. In this case, sulfonamide is able to interact with the same binding site on albumin, and it is able to displace tolbutamide from this site, and the result is that you have an increase in concentration of tolbutamide as free tolbutamide in the blood. This means this higher concentration can decrease too much the level of glucose inside the blood. The worst situation is in the E column. Sulfafenazole is another sulfonamide. You see that in this case we have the 20% of free tolbutamide, and so we have a strong effect in the control of the glucose concentration inside the blood. Yes.
So since the effective drug is the free form, if the drug is displaced, there is too much free form and the therapeutic effect is too much increased.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because we need only a 4% of the free drug. You see the column A, the first column, you have the optimal situation. If we have two free drug through 2-phthalbutamide, you have a massive decrease in glucose concentration inside the blood.
And the increased free drug is accompanied also by increased side effects.
Yeah.
But does it mean that if you have an increase in the free drugs, that it will be an increase in the therapeutic effect? Because you need a small percentage, right?
Yeah.
So there is no increase of therapeutic effect.
Yeah. So we have a displacement from plasma proteins, we say. Okay, a strong displacement because it's like when two men want the same woman, you know, you have a competition. You try with a Ferrari and then flowers and so on, a restaurant. The other one perhaps have a big plane, and so it's a competition, okay? You see in this table the common drug-drug interactions. It's really a limited table, but because normally it's a very long table, but these are the most famous examples of the different classes of drugs and the effect of the blood protein displacement. The problem normally is related to drugs that act on particular disease. In this case, you see warfarin. Warfarin is a very famous drug used for its anticoagulation effect. A people after an infarct has normally a problem with the coagulation, blood coagulation. And so we have to decrease the level of the blood coagulation, the platelets, blood coagulation, blood platelet coagulation. Warfarin is used to control the blood platelet coagulation, but the therapeutic window is very closed. And so if you use warfarin for a long time, and for example, we have to use antibiotics, we can have a changing in the value of coagulation, and perhaps we can have no any coagulation. And so these people can have problem if they cut the skin, for example, or warfarin used as a mouse killer. If you want to eliminate mouse in your at home and so on, you know, it is you have to use warfarin, and so they die because they have a lot of problem with the coagulation inside the body. So if your dog, sometimes happens at home, the dog eats this type of toxic compound, there are a lot of problems with the coagulation. No more coagulation inside the blood, inside the body. Yeah. So the problem is with this drug, which control particular diseases such as diabetes, such as coagulation, you see. Also digoxin, you know, digoxin is a natural product, and digoxin is very toxic. And so we have to check very carefully the fraction of free digoxin inside the body, because we can block the heart muscle movement. Okay. Transport system, once again, they are very important, but sometimes drugs can use the same transport system, so you have a competition for the same career. Okay. We have already described that a drug can be present in different forms inside the blood. Free drug, drug bound to the plasmatic proteins, drug bound to circulant cells. But only the free drug can be distributed, metabolized, excreted. Only the small fraction of free drug. The bound drug remain attached with the proteins, and it can represent a reserve of the drug, because you know free drug can be metabolized, can be eliminated, so you have an equilibrium between the free drug and bound drug. And so bound drug can support, can maintain a regular, a normal concentration of the drug inside the blood. You can understand that the concentration of free drug is critical if you want to have the right therapeutic action, the right distribution. We have already defined that bioavailability is important, yes. We need a strong absorption of our drug, yes, yes. It is important, it's the right concentration inside the blood flow, yes. And normally, the drug should reach the minimal effective concentration, yes. But the problem is that this level, this concentration, should be reached only by the free drug, not from the bound drug. I mean, we take 1 gram of aspirin, for example. Okay. The minimal effective concentration, for example, is 100 milligrams. Okay, perfect. So I take 1 gram. We need 100 milligrams. Okay. But we need 100 milligrams of free drug, not bound drug. So when we measure the level of aspirin inside the blood, we have to search only the free drug concentration, not the bound drug. So you can have an optimal bioavailability, but if you have a strong interaction with the proteins, so the concentration of free drug is too low, we don't have any therapeutic benefits. And a lot of drugs remain bound in a too strong way. We have a big concentration of drug bound to the proteins, and we do not observe any therapeutic effects. So we can have high bioavailability but low therapeutic effect. This is the result. We have already discussed about the first pass phenomenon. This means that when we assume a drug orally, the most part of this drug is delivered through the portal vein. This means that liver can metabolize this drug, can change the chemical structure of this drug. And the result is that an important part of this drug is ineffective, will be ineffective. How we can avoid this phenomenon? How we can avoid the first pass effect? By different way of administration. For example, buccal administration under the tongue or inside the wall of the oral cavity, not by stomach. So we can put a plaster, for example, inside the oral cavity, and this plaster can release the drug very slowly, and then you avoid the pass through the liver, because the drug goes directly into the blood flow through the oral epithelium. Or rectal administration, the drug is able to reach directly the blood flow. Subcutaneous administration or parenteral administration by injection, You see in the picture what happens inside the intestine. If the drug remains inside the intestine, the drug is eliminated into the feces or can be metabolized, yes. But the major fraction of the drug normally is absorbed. Gut wall, you see, portal vein, and then liver. And in the liver, there is a massive metabolization of your drug. Okay, some pictures about buccal administration. You see, you put the tablet under the tongue. In particular, in the case of heart failure, we need nitroglycerin. Is an explosive, yes, but also is a potent vasodilatator. and there are tablets of this compound, and you put this compound under the tongue, and you have a very fast effect on the heart, and so we have an increased concentration of oxygen in the case of infarct. Okay. Ten minutes and then we stop. The final effect. We are very interested in the final effect, yes. We want to get the final effect, the therapeutic, the beneficial effect. The beneficial effect is strongly influenced by absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion. All these phenomena can influence the blood concentration of your drug. And blood concentration of the drug is very important to get the final effect, you know. The distribution of the drug after its absorption in the various districts depends on the chemical and physical properties, solubility, partition coefficient, the binding to the protein. And so it's important to know this type of properties of our drugs. We can have an oral administration. You saw the absorption in the stomach. The drug reaches the blood flow. Only the free drug can reach the site of action, can go to the tissue as a reserve, can be excreted, can be metabolized. And the metabolism normally is carried out inside the liver. You know that our body is formed by water, different fraction, old people 50%, young people 77%, child 94%. But also, we can observe a deposition of the drug in particular districts which are characterized by a high blood perfusion. In particular, we can observe a distribution, high concentration of the drug in heart, brain, liver, kidneys, thyroid, adrenal glands. Because these districts have a high blood perfusion. If we have a lipophilic drugs, this drug is able to cross the membrane, yes, and to reach and to distribute itself in brain and in the adipose tissue. Because these two districts are formed by a lot of cells, astrocytes and neurons in the brain, and adipocytes in adipose, And this tissue have a particular tropism. Your molecule, your lipophilic molecule, reach very easily, is able to reach very easily this district. And in this district, this drug is able to remain. I remember you that only the free drug can give the final effect. So the pharmacokinetic phase is the limited phase. It is the phase that is able to limit the distribution of your drug and is able to influence the final effect. Absorption. Absorption is very important, yes. We know that in our body there are different types of epithelial tissues, yes. But there are two important biological barriers very difficult to cross. The placental barrier and the blood-brain barrier. Placental barrier is a barrier able to defend the fetum from the toxic compounds introduced by the diet, smoke, pollutants. And the blood-brain barriers is a barrier, okay, you can see here in the picture, the placental barrier, you see the placenta is here, and so the placenta is able to defend the child from the toxic compounds. Oh, there is an interesting story, an interesting example about this barrier. You can see in the picture thalidomide. Thalidomide is a painkiller drug. And in the 50s, during the 50s, the use of this painkiller was very common. The scientists did not measure the ability of this compound to cross the placental barrier. And the result was to have a lot of children without hands. Because this compound is toxic during the formation of the fetum, and the result was to have a high number of children without hands. After that, this compound is now used as anti-cancer drug. What is? No. Okay. And now this compound is used as anti-cancer drug because it is able to interact with the DNA and to block the replication of cancer cells. So, from the past, we have a lesson from the past. From the past, we had a lot of severe side effects, you see, and now we use this compound as anti-cancer. This compound is able to cross the placental barrier. Okay, 5 minutes, blood-brain barrier, and then we stop. Blood-brain barrier. We know that exists this type of barrier because in the past somebody tried to inject a dye, a colorant, inside a mouse, blue color, and this guy observed that all the body was blue, but not the brain. This means that there is a special barrier able to defend the brain from exogenous compounds. This is the molecular formula of the colorant used in that time. And we understand that charged compounds are not able to cross the blood-brain barrier. Only the uncharged compounds are able to cross it. Here you can see how this barrier is formed. In particular, it's formed by astrocytes. Astrocytes are important cells to support the life of neurons. And astrocytes are all around the capillary vessels, and so they represent an additional membrane able to defend our neurons. They are between the capillary vessel and neurons. They are in the middle, and so they can defend our neurons from polar compounds. However, there are specific carrier systems to transport, for example, amino acids, which are charged at physiological pH, to transport sugar, hydrophilic molecules, not able to cross the placental barrier, the blood-brain barrier, but they use specific transport system. And once again, we can use this transport system to introduce important drugs into the brain. You see important papers about this barrier and these efflux transporters. The carrier system can work inward, but can work also outward. In this case, these two scientists found a particular transport system able to take the drug from the inside of the neurons and to transport this drug outside. Okay. I have just a movie, 2 minutes, and then we stop.
I didn't understand. In the middle are the capillaries.
Here you have the vessel, capillary vessel here, and then in neurons. In the middle there are the astrocytes.
Okay.
So astrocyte represents an additional barrier, additional membranes that your drug have to cross to reach the neurons.
Okay, yes.
Okay? Here you can see a brief movie about the blood-brain barrier. So you have seen a different strategy to open, to increase the permeability of blood-brain barrier in order to increase the penetration of important drug inside the CNS. Trojan horse is the most famous approach. We try to attack our drug to glucose, for example, vitamin C, for example. Polyamine is another important antibodies you have seen on the film, on the movie. And or we try to disorganize the blood-brain barrier with the the ultrasound and so on. So you see, it's not easy to reach the CNS with drugs. Okay, so I think we can stop here, and then see you next Monday afternoon, and then we start from this point, and then we are in the introduction part, 24 hours of introduction part, and then 56 on the particular topics. Okay, have you any questions? No? At home, have you any question? No?
No, it's all clear.
Okay, thanks a lot for your attention. See you, have a nice afternoon. Okay.
Bye-bye, have a nice day.
Bye. Ciao. Okay. So. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. See you.
Ciao, bye. Bye.